Welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and another episode of the Indie Show. And yes, before John even says anything, I was late because I was talking and showing unruly things that I can't afford that I want. That's basically where it is. And speaking of unruly, what's going on, my friends?
I'm still stuck in Tennessee.
Someday you'll be free of Tennessee. Someday, maybe.
And I'm literally like, as the crow flies, 5 miles from the border with Georgia.
Well, so you just duck across and like take in that clean Georgia air before you have to come back.
It's beautiful, man. I'm a flatlander. I like the state itself. I'm just tired of this job, and I'm shutting up about it.
You've been on this one for a long time, so I can understand. Well, we had our friend GT Key in here tailgating, and yet somehow you still managed to be second. That's all is right in the world. You were second, and John was third, so it's all good. Like in terms of my chat, Bob's your uncle is here. He's hanging out. What is going on? So yeah, we are talking Rachel Rising Volume 6. We are almost to the end of this series. We have one volume left after this. So thoughts on Volume 6 on the reread, Unruly? What did you think of this volume on the reread?
I'm still loving it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could wax at great length, but it's just the combination of art, story, and characters. This is up there for me.
No, I would agree. I really enjoyed this volume. It felt like not a lot happened, and yet I guess a lot did. I mean, there was a lot of character movement in terms of Rachel realizing some stuff, but not a lot really actually happened in this volume. I mean, it was a fairly I don't even think Zoe killed anybody in this volume. It's a very slow volume.
Well, we get to see a fairly subdued Zoe, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, she's she acts almost her physical age during several of the sections in here, as opposed to, old, evil, not even evil, just, murder happy Zoe. I will say, we'll get to it later, but the panel, where does it get to? Where she, just from an art standpoint, where they're arguing in the front lawn and she blows her brains.
And then the old couple across the street, the young girl just shot herself.
Yeah. And they didn't even notice. So yeah, it's just but yeah, so we get story development, but not necessarily a lot of action. So in this first issue, we start out with we left things last week. Rachel had basically strangled herself to try to figure out some stuff, I guess, to become some sort of ghost or something. And she went to the graveyard, and some little girl had seen her there. And I guess she actually followed this little girl to a place where the little girl that can hear dead people or see dead people, like from the Sixth Sense, hears all kinds of voices coming from this yard. So what did you think about this? Like, this kid, did we ever even get this kid's name? This random kid that can, see dead people?
Well, we know she calls her dad Daddy, and that's about as far as I can narrow it down.
Yeah. And so she walks Rachel to this place where she's been hearing voices, and it's what finally prompts Rachel to wake up. What does Zoe say? 3 weeks later? Well, I guess it's not what prompts her to wake up. First, she has a dream. And we see Zoe at 16 or whatever, or 15, with the Antichrist, like pregnant with the Antichrist in her dream. And then Rachel wakes up to Zoe, and then what did you think of this whole sequence here that starts this off? And I even skipped the like random murder on the road.
Yeah, the random murder on the road. Well, it's look at that sequence with the little girl, the page where she's walking up the lane. It's just perfect. Her costume, the backgrounds, it's super detailed without being busy.
Well, I mean, it almost looks like something like out of like Mary Poppins or something, how a kid would dress, or it's it feels very dated. The outfit the little girl's wearing, like it's a very like not necessarily from this time period.
Well, God bless her, she can see and hear dead people. Maybe that's weird too.
To put it mildly.
But I do love when Rachel, can you believe it? Knocked up with the Antichrist. Say hello to Aunt Rachel, you little bastard. Which is totally what something that Zoe would do if she were knocked up with the Antichrist.
Zoe would absolutely, that would absolutely be her attitude about the whole thing, for sure. So, but after she has this vision of the future or potential future, she does finally wake up, and Zoe lets her know that she's been out for 2 weeks. Which again, like they die for a period, but eventually they're all coming back. Or she was comatose, I guess. They would have buried her had they not known that she was probably going to just wake up. Let's see. But Zoe reveals some of Rachel's nature, which is that she, like, during this conversations, that she, like, can see the stream of life, that Rachel can see potentially forward and backward in the events of true things that happen. So Zoe is finally, like, acknowledging who she thinks Rachel is, or who she knows Rachel is. What did you think about that conversation between the two of them after Rachel finally wakes up?
Zoe, for all her age and sophistication in some ways, in other ways she really is just a dumb, impulsive kid. Maybe I never really thought about it. Stupid me. I'm so screwed.
Yeah.
And the expression on her face is just perfect.
It is definitely like she is definitely probably easily the best character, I think, in the series. And I like some of the other characters, but she has the most nuance in the way he writes her, because he writes her as this old soul, obviously in this kid's body, because she's actually been around for a very long time, but yet she still is that 10-year-old. Like, she's still, like, a big part of her is, and we get that, especially when they go to the morgue here, and, like, and they just, like, show that how horrible things keep happening in this town. Like, somebody's just dead in the tub. It's just like, and and then we obviously had the death on the road, and the guy jumping off the water tower, and all this stuff that's just bad things happening in this town. Most likely because Malice is here is really, I guess, the point they're trying to make here. But I love when they get to the morgue, and like they're talking to Aunt Johnny, and Zoe just like goes over and like Rachel, what? Take it out. My hand weighs 12 pounds. She's like weighing her hand. Like, and her, her joy, and like Rachel. She just keeps saying her name, and it's just like, I just think she's really, really well written and well developed as a character. And Like,
Well, I've got, and I'm gonna, confess, just be blunt. I've got a huge crush on Rachel.
oh well, yeah, I get that for sure. Well, it's not like Terry Moore draws, attractive characters at all. Like he doesn't make them, and he does so. I do like the fact that he draws attractive women, like, but it's more of a Frank Cho style because the body size and shape is more realistic. I mean, it's still not realistic, but it is more realistic than you get with like a Jim Lee Catwoman. Like, you're not. It's not like this ridiculous shape. It is something that is very attractive and yet still somewhat reasonably proportioned to be like an actual human being, just a very attractive one. Hey, Bronze Page, what's going on? And so yeah, he does so with very. I mean, her faces are very like Rachel's face is very simple in terms of lines and structure, but yeah, you don't have like 37 crosshatches like you get with Jim Lee, but it's effective. It's an effective style for sure. So I'll be honest, I don't know, like this whole beginning, other than like this whole scene at the morgue and Rachel touching and getting somebody else's story behind them, other than just driving home that bad things keep happening in this city.
I think it's just letting them know that it's not over yet.
Yeah.
It's like a prologue for the re-arrival of Lilith.
Yes. So Lilith comes back, and we actually get a lot more of Lilith in this volume than we've gotten to this point. In terms of just her on her own, like, seeing how she functions and how she basically takes over. She gets a ride, and then she takes over this old man's house, and we're getting more of her story in terms of how she really fits into this world or doesn't fit into this world. And then through her conversations with Rachel that happened later, if you can remember, what did you think of Lilith and how did it change in this volume as compared to what she'd been before in the story?
Well, when I first read it, it was, to me at the time, totally fresh and unexpected.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know, like you going into a cold, I had no idea what was going to happen. And this sequence made me, I don't want to say appreciate Lilith because deep down she's a crazy bat.
Right.
But maybe understand her a little. I love when she pulls herself finally out of the muck and the hands are still grasping and she kicks them and she goes, Jesus, you women hold a grudge. Get over it. I'm sorry. You're the one that was going to destroy an entire town because of something they did 400 years previously.
Yeah. It is an interesting tone change from her because what we've seen is she was earlier in the story, she was petty and yeah, like you said, she was holding a grudge for something that happened 400 years ago. Her focus was completely on revenge on this town and like, even though she knew Malice was there, and although she thought I guess it was a luxury because she thought she had him contained at that point. Like she had him contained, or so she thought, and so she had the luxury of exacting her little revenge scheme as opposed to really focusing on the bigger issues that she was dealing with. But yeah. But it was interesting to see her come back and see her motivations kind of like her priorities change, I guess, in terms of like, okay, I actually gotta wake Rachel up, which we'll get to in a minute, and we got to deal with Malice. We got to figure out a way to deal with Malice. And what happens here is Rachel returns to the yard and gets some questions where all the dead bodies are, and is trying to figure out if this is the person that killed her, which is, she originally, which she's super obsessed with, Um,
Well, I love how Lilith is, as far as we see in this arc, she's very concerned with stopping Malice from ending creation.
right.
So she cares about humanity in general, maybe, but she sure doesn't mind using them and killing them along the way.
Well, see, like we talk about her motivation, and I think it's more of like, as much as this is sort of a prison for her, she's been imprisoned on Earth with humanity, with Eve's children for all this time. She still sees it as the better option than what she just crawled herself out of. Like, if Malice wins, then what she just had to crawl herself back out of is what everything would be. So she would rather have, I think to a certain extent, she'd rather have this place where she can be petty and be vindictive and be like focused on punishing, Eve's kids and, exacting a little bit of revenge here and there. And as opposed to, okay, actual hell on earth, that's not great. So I don't think it's necessarily that she wants to save humanity. I think it's just that she's like, well, in comparison of my options, she's spending eternity somewhere. I think is really where she's coming from, or at least that's the vibe I get from her.
And agreed. And also, you've got to take into consideration the fact that however old she is, many thousands of years, she's crazy.
Oh, well, yeah. Because she remembers it all. Like, every time she's died, crawled her way out, she remembers all of it. So that gets us to, like, the main crux of this volume.
Well, hey, let's not.
Well, I was going to go back to that. Do you want to do that before we get to the main crux? Okay. So
Jet and
Earl.
Yeah, I love that. It gives all of us misshapen humans hope that maybe.
As someone who's old and alone, it gives you all hope that
Well, I'm older and a loner.
But yeah, so yes, we see Earl finally try to make his move on Jet. He's actually fairly smooth here. Like, given what we've seen from him in the previous volumes, he actually does this in a pretty. He's actually pretty smooth about it. I mean, and I love how she just like keeps trying to warn him off. Like, no, you don't want that. You don't. And he just, he won't have any of it. And I love her fun, like her giving in is like, sigh. I guess I'm dating a romantic. Like, that is the worst thing that she could do.
And then Rachel pulls up to the homestead, and there's Lilith.
So we get the big reveal here, the crux of this issue, which is Rachel coming to terms with who she actually is, and why she keeps coming back, and why she's the same and yet different from Lilith, because she is Lilith's sister, is what we find out in this story, that she was created to basically be Lilith's companion, and they both were in the crime that Lilith eventually committed. Rachel didn't commit, but she tried to help cover up for it, and that's why they're both being punished. But Rachel, every time she dies, she forgets before she wakes back up, which is.
We are both made by God's own hand. Me first, then you. And we are eternal.
Yes.
That's gonna take a minute to sink in.
Well, yeah, we see her once she realizes that Lilith is not lying to her, and she's out in the yard, as they say, processing. Once she gives her the thing and she's remembering, I mean, you have these pages of her just sitting there like, what? And I love Joe and Lilith's conversation. in the house while they're waiting for Rachel to process. And I love how I say, like, you should go check on her. You go. You're her friend. You're her sister. And I love Lois, like, don't talk to me that way, you little midget. I've ruled empires. Well, you must have been lousy at it because they're all gone.
You are the most aggravating little creature.
Yeah. I mean, his dialogue, like, we talk a lot about, like, I mean, this book is carried by Moore's dialogue. I mean, the art is fantastic. The story is interesting and engaging, but, like, in lesser hands, it actually moves pretty slow. Like, I mean, you really think about it. Like, without his dialogue, this would be a drag. This whole volume would be a drag. Like, if it wasn't for his dialogue, which is always snappy and spot on in a way, like real yet very, like, these are very smart, snap, and like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not smart, but gosh dang. Eloquent. Yeah, I mean, they're very, like, they speak really, like, all these characters speak really well, and, like, you know, they're very engaging in the way they converse, and it's just like, yeah, Moore's dialogue, particularly this volume, carries this book. Like, their conversations, like the conversation, like we said, the conversation earlier between Rachel and Zoe, and then Joe and Lilith here, and then Lilith and Rachel as they're talking through, is Lilith is bringing her back up to speed, and then Zoe jumping in, like, all of it is just really well done. Go ahead.
What I like, which I started to say earlier, but I got sidetracked. Lilith, Rachel says it straight out to her. You still think we can be saved, don't you?
Yeah. And Lilith goes, not if malice starts the apocalypse.
And Zoe butts in, maybe God knew it would come to this, and he meant for you to be here to stop it. He's given you a chance to pay the debt. You know, everything has balance. And then and who knows? Maybe I'll get brownie points.
Yeah, I love how she immediately brings it back to herself. And she's like, I made you smile. No, you didn't. Like, you know, I mean, just the way they interact is just so well written. Of course, so then, like, so Lilith's got Rachel on, like, so they've woken Rachel up. They've sort of gotten her on. And I love, like, so you're on board. So, like, one condition, drop your vendetta against this town. Why do you care? I live here. Not if we win. Like, and I love how at the end, it's like, they come to an agreement, and then it's like, so, of course, I told you she'd do it this time. Rachel's like, this time.
And then when the argument continues, you killed me? Don't be ridiculous. You can't be killed. I merely rebooted you.
Yeah, rebooted you. And I love the, like, and just another thing of the dialogue is, like you said, the little old ladies across the street, like, their dialogue as they're watching these two fight, like, Rachel, who they know, and this woman that they don't know, have an argument in the lawn. Like, their whole conversation.
Dude, and this one of these pages, and before you play PS with me, remember you stood by while the little psycho disemboweled me. She has a point there, Rach. You did watch me gut her like a trout. I'm pretty sure that page is still for sale on Moore's website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've been tempted.
Which? Oh, the one where Rachel's just like going, like, where Zoe and Lilith are talking while Rachel goes off on her. And they're just like, she always like this? Pretty much. Make her go back to sleep. Like, which again leads to my panel from earlier. Is they just keep going back and forth, and Zoe just gets bored. And I just love. I'm going to show it again because I love that panel. She's watching them, she's like, ow. And then the little old ladies across the street, like you said, they're like, what are they doing now, Lily? Still arguing. And the little girl just blew her brains out. Oh, my. You know, it's just like... And I love the little old lady comes over, and Lillian comes over to, like, support Rachel. And she's like, and she just like, do I know you? Were you ever in prison? And she's like, she just dropped water moccasins in her husband's bubble bath. Like, yeah, I was in prison for 30 years. No.
So of course Zoe is, I like her.
Yeah. Like, Zoe's got a new hero. So ultimately, all of this comes to, like I said, there's not a lot of action here, and it ultimately comes to they go out, they take their conversation elsewhere, and we start getting some of the information back on Rachel. We also get to see briefly Jet and Earl go on a date. And yeah, Jet wastes no time, and I'm not sure Earl's ready for that yet, but he's like, as you can see by his face, it's like, oh wait, already? Like, but the other thing we get in here is what appears to be Rachel's most likely killer here, checking stuff from home, like from his home, and seeing Rachel is walking around and in one of the photos. So appears we know who the killer is. And I love how Lilith was like, I didn't like set him up to kill you. I just didn't stop him. And I am super serious. Like, so they're going through all this ways. How can they kill Malice and actually like kill him or end his threat? And like they keep coming up, and I love how Zoe's like, I got lots of ideas on how to kill somebody. I just love the way she says it. But so how do you get rid of somebody who can't die? And so I love her face. She's like, I got lots of ideas how to get rid of somebody. So what do you think of our final sequence here of them and their plotting to get rid of Malice?
I'm interested to see what they finally come up with.
Yeah. Well, according to Zoe, they're going to launch him into space just based on what I'm getting. I mean, like, we're looking at it. And somehow she has a plan. So apparently she has a rocket ship, I guess. I don't know. And she's going to stuff him on and send him to outer space. That, of course, presumes there's no life out there, which, you know.
And space is awfully big, but
it is awfully big.
Forever is a long time.
But it probably would contain him for longer than she contained him in Zoe, I guess. But so what overall, like anything else in here that we're missing that you wanted to bring up before we kind of get into some other thoughts?
Well, I'm liking the little one page explaining, how Lilith and Rachel came to be.
Yes.
Because Lilith is big in mythology, as Adam's first wife.
Right.
But I just saw an excellent not documentary, but historical video. Our mentions of Lilith in the Bible, I think there's only 2. And basically, and it's, not a whole lot of information, certainly not as Adam's first wife.
Right.
That's all later Jewish mythology that sprang up around it. And it's deeper than that. Lilith is a combination of old gods or characters from more even older traditions. But I mean, if you remember, who was it? The Lilith Fair that ran for 2 or 3 years. It was all female artists.
Yeah.
But there's a tradition that Lilith, she did not accept being Adam's servant. And that's why God booted her and made Eve.
Which is not what they say, not as what he's using is why she got in trouble. But
I'm ready for it. How many more volumes do we have? 2?
1.
1? Okay, good. Because I'm going to read that puppy this weekend.
So here's my question. So we figured out why Rachel rises. for lack of a thing. This volume gives us the definitive answer as to who Rachel is, why she keeps coming back. And we knew why Mary Scott and the other one rose before, because they were witches that Lilith had trained, and like she brought them back. So who the heck is Jet? Like,
I think Jet just got side affected by the magic of Malice being in her for a short time.
she comes back before that, I thought, though. She came back once before that.
Did she? I don't remember. I thought it was after Malice.
No, because she's already come back from the accident when Malice goes into her, and then she gets the electrocuted thing.
I'll go back and reread it. I'm
pretty sure she, like, here, well, we'll just look, but yeah, I'm pretty sure volume 1, I got too much crap on my shelf, I can't get this stuff. Like, because doesn't she die right at the end of volume 1? Yeah, she dies in the car accident at the end of volume 1.
That's right.
So, like, and maybe he doesn't explain it, but who is, like, what role does Jet have here? I feel like, I guess we got that explanation as Jet was the boy that Rachel liked, that she'd given the powers to, but like she sent him on his way, and like I guess has Jet come back since she sent the guy on the way? Since he freed his spirit from her? That's a good question. I don't know. So maybe that's just it. It's like Mary Scott or the other one that they brought back before. It's just somebody that they met along the way that Rachel had an attachment to. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to volume 7. I feel like there's a lot to wrap up in a single volume, because obviously at some point he wouldn't be teasing this if Rachel's not going to deal with her killer at some point. And then we got to deal with Malice, which I feel like it's going to take some time. I don't know. Hey, Kenneth. So, any other final thoughts on this volume before we get out of here?
No, but I would encourage those of you that are fans of Terry Moore to go to his website and get his latest series. He just dropped a hardcover for.
Yeah. So I saw that today. He sent that to Unruly. He'd already
limited
to before. But did I just lose you? I might have just lost Unruly. He's frozen. Oh, there he is. Now he's moving.
Just for a second.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I saw the screen go swirly.
Yeah, well, you're back now. So, yeah, if you're a big fan of Terry Moore, he just, Parker Girls or whatever, he just dropped that on his website. You can go get his hardcover right now. And it was pretty affordable for a hardcover, so it wasn't crazy expensive. So, with that, we're going to get out of here. I'm looking forward to volume 7. I'm not sure how quickly we'll turn this around, but go ahead.
I was just saying goodbye.
Oh, so yeah, peace, and we will see you guys later. Thanks for watching, everyone.